tying goal at 19-12. And there's a fellow who you don't want to invite, Jacques Demers, Rob Ramage, and Paul Stewart to the same party tonight.
Carbonneau is on the Canadiens bench. Looks like he'll be available for overtime duty. Canadiens were 5-3-6 in overtime. Quebec 4-1-10 this year in the regular season in sudden death. And the Nordiques quickly send it down. Lapointe takes his man out, but icing is the call, and Haller takes a look at Lapointe. And quickly downstairs for an update from Ron.
Thank you, Chris. One of our 2 overtime games is now over. We take you to the Garden in Boston, where the Buffalo Sabres have won home ice advantage for the remainder of this series. John Muckler, one of 3 coaches in the playoffs to have won a Stanley Cup, of course, with Scotty and Al Arbor, sees Bob Sweeney score the game-winning goal for his side 11 minutes into the extra period. Buffalo 5, Boston 4 at the Garden tonight.
Bob Sweeney scoring it for his side now against his former side, leaving Boston right at the start of this season and joining the Buffalo Sabres.
And in his hometown.
Yeah, he's from New England, the New England area, yes. What a night for him.
Boy, 2 streaks coming to an end there. The Sabres were struggling, and the Bruins were red hot down the stretch. Yes, it's Stanley Cup playoff time, and anything can happen, and we've seen that here tonight. Puck flipped in by Lapointe, and Desjardins has it past Keane down the ice. In case you joined us late, Matt Schneider out of this game and out of the series for a short time at least with a separated shoulder.
No doubt the 2 coaches, Jacques Demers had the toughest job to try to get his gang back together again during the intermission leading to this overtime. Pierre Pagé walked into a room that was pumped, and Demers walked into a room that was depressed, I'm sure.
Well, they said this was an inexperienced team. The downfall of the Nordiques would be inexperienced, but they looked very poised in the final couple of minutes of regulation time. And for Patrick Roy, this game has been like his season. Brilliant at times, but goals that we aren't used to seeing Patrick Roy allow. Ron Hextall at the other end has been sensational.
I agree with Don. Had the game ended the way it looked like it was going to end in regulation time, Hextall deserved a star for keeping it as close as it was, but that was the key to the Nordiques coming back to tie it, his goaltending.
Ricci wins the faceoff. Young through to Rasinski. He had the first goal in this comeback. Rasinski, the rookie, being watched by Daigneault. And he's knocked down, and the puck slides into the Quebec zone. Greg Wolanin. Gusarov, his defensive partner, returns the pass, and now Rasinski. Former Edmonton Oiler. Dumps it in, Daigneault there, off the glass, out for John Leclair, and Leclair's had so many great chances tonight. He couldn't get by Wolanin. Brisebois sends it in, offside is the call. We've played 70 seconds of overtime.
These teams did not play overtime against each other during the regular season. As we mentioned during the course of the show, with the visiting teams dominating, winning 6 out of 7, but none of the games are really close. No matter who was winning the game, they were doing it convincingly.
Jacques Demers had to rebuild the confidence of his team in the last couple of weeks. And he had to do the exact same thing, as you mentioned, Dick, in the intermission, after playing so well for 58 minutes. Dion is on the ice. And oh, he'd love to score after taking that penalty. Offside again, the call.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. We both refer to the Dion, DiPietro, Brunet line as being a bit of a pleasant surprise, I think, for Demers tonight, the way they played. But the wheels came off with the penalty to Dion. But, you know, the Nordiques, you can't turn your back on a team that has the offensive potential that this Quebec team does. You just can't let them give them an inch. The Canadiens did, and here we are in overtime.
Third best offense during the regular season after Detroit and Pittsburgh. Dion in the corner, double team there, stays with it. And now Huff takes it away and starts the Nordiques back. Right wing feed to Owen Nolan. Long shot. Patrick Roy handles that. Dion now, DiPietro breaking. Dion slides it in, Hextall out of the net, Duchesne plays it. Duchesne almost lost it to Dion, but gets it ahead, and here comes Nolan with Sakic. Nolan going wide against Odeline. Against the boards, Sakic looks to pry it free, and the Canadiens send it down the ice.
Well, you can sense that this overtime is starting. There's no doubt which team has the spring in its legs. And that's very understandable, the way it all ended in regulation time. Now we go back. A lot of things happen on April the 18th. The Nordiques come back tonight. The Sabres win. And these teams were playing in overtime on April 18th, 1985. 8 years ago tonight. Mark Kumpel, remember him, scored the winner for Quebec, Game 1. So they won Game 1 that night in the other guy's building. See if the Canadiens can do likewise tonight.
Ricci on this face-off against Carbonneau. Ricci wins the draw. Young shot off the shin pad of Carbonneau wide. Daniel ahead to Bellows. Savard also on the ice. Ryan Bellows has a goal tonight. Checked there by Foot, who has trouble with it. Now Bellows looking to center, hit Ricci. Carbonneau has it in the corner, centers it. Bellows trying to come free, and out it comes for Scott Young. Young working against Brisebois. In front, Ricci got a stick on it, deflects it high. Ricci's lost a glove, and the Canadiens have the puck. Brisebois up to Carbonneau. Backhands it into the Quebec zone and heads to the bench as the Canadiens make a wholesale change. Gusarov. Tied up is Rasinski. He can't get loose. Gusarov on the second attempt gets it down the ice. And up for icing, and Desjardins. Kevin Haller blindly passes it, goes to Lapointe, puts it in front. Kamensky can't get it. Haller knocked him off stride, and Keane has it at center. Ahead for Dom Foose. Desjardins clears it in. Wolanin takes a look. Keane in on him quickly, but they do clear it down. We've played 3 minutes and 39 seconds of sudden death overtime.
Why coaches go gray? Not this one. Jacques Demers with the pass across ice in his own zone in overtime by Kevin Haller. Had he been listening to Don Cherry, who addressed young defensemen, I don't think he was addressing NHL defensemen, but he could have. When you're in trouble and in doubt, get it up along the boards. And he threw it across. That was a scary moment for the Canadiens in their own zone, but now they've got to face off in the Quebec zone.
Kirk Muller on the ice with Brian Bellows and John Leclair. The Colisée is hopping. Daniel at the point, deflected by Huff. It goes in the corner. Leclair swats at it, but Huff starts back. Owen Nolan sends it into the corner. Huff gives chase against Patrick Roy. In the corner for Bellows. He flips it out to center. Canadiens playing it cozy right now. Curtis Lesician rink wide. Joey Sakic got the equalizer. Into the corner for Huff. Nolan fighting for it against Muller, kicked it free, but it was deflected by the Canadiens, and Leclair to Bellows. Steve Finn lost his footing. Bellows shot, and Hextall again well out of the net to challenge Brian Bellows.
Big guy for Quebec continues to be the big guy in the nets. That one might have just been on the way to squeezing through, and he managed to hang on. Bellows had to let the shot go a bit farther out, I'm sure, than he would have liked, as the chase was on, heading down the right side into the Quebec zone. But watch the reaction of Hextall here as Bellows lets it go from the rim of the circle, and he just hangs on a little bit. Take a look now from behind the net. Maybe we get a better idea of the kind of a save it was. Might not have been as close as it looked from our end of the ice, but there's an opening there, and he closes it just in time.
Pierre Pagé said that his goaltender has been his leader since the start of the year, and getting a great illustration of that tonight in game 1 of this Adams semi. Nordiques trying to preserve a home ice advantage. The Canadiens trying to nail down a win they thought they had 58 minutes into the game. Desjardins hit by Lapointe. Kamensky knocks it free. Sundin in the corner. Desjardins tries to knock it away from him. Kamensky again. Slides it through. Steve Duchesne can't get the shot away. There's a backhand wide. Lapointe. Cross ice pass hit Brunet. Gusarov had pinched in. He could get caught up ice. Here's Dion with DiPietro. 2-on-1. Dion shooting. Hextall cleared away the rebound. DiPietro loses it behind the net. Back comes Quebec. Kamensky on left wing. Valerie Kamensky in the drop pass went between Sundin's legs. DiPietro flips it outside the line, and now he has it again. He's been a spark plug for Montreal, but that pass broken up by Kamensky. Kamensky to Lapointe. Lapointe stops up, passes across, and it's cleared by Owen. Looked like Lapointe might have had a chance on a break, and now offside called. And DiPietro down.
That was a tired line the Canadiens had. Paul DiPietro. And he slid in offside on the play. He created a giveaway in the Nordic zone. Boy, I wish we could have had a camera on Mats Sundin as that last rush came up with Lapointe carrying the puck. Boy, did he fly back toward the Canadian zone. Absolutely a beautiful skater. Now here's Dion, and he's down as the puck didn't get through. Close call.
That time Gusarov had pinched in for Quebec and got caught up ice, and the Canadiens with Dion and DiPietro had that 2-on-1 opportunity. Rusinski takes Keane into the boards, and here comes the first penalty of the night. 65 minutes and 55 seconds into the game against Martin Rusinski. And in overtime, the Canadiens get their first power play.
Rusinski, one of the scoring heroes late in the third period. Paget not arguing the point, I do not think. But his team is shorthanded for the first time tonight. So on the right of the screen is where you'll see the infraction take place. And Rusinski's gone for 2 with a boarding call. And you see Stewart with the arm upraised. So the tongue-in-cheek comments of Rob Ramage with Ron in the intermission come back to us now just a little bit. No doubt the Canadiens upset over the difference in the number of penalties called. So now they get a power play chance, and the power play we mentioned off in the strengths and weaknesses, they have to get it going in this series if in the long run, I still feel, Chris, no matter what happens here tonight, in the long run, if they're going to win it, because the power play has not been too good lately.
Ron Hextall will be tested. His team had the 15th best penalty killing unit during the regular season. Canadiens the 15th best power play. So it's not exactly strength against strength, but Jacques Demers' team will take this opportunity. Brisebois will lead the rush. Bellows is out on the ice with Dion and Kirk Muller. Here's Muller dropping it back. Brisebois at the point. Bellows. Haller is at the other point. And Haller takes the pass. Shot. Hit the post. Rebound to Bellows. Had it hop over his stick with a wide open net. Oh boy, the Canadiens have had some hard luck around Ron Hextall tonight. And Mike Huff sends them back into their own zone. Off the post, and the rebound somehow got by Bellows. Stéphane Lebeau is lining up at the Nordique blue line, and now here comes Domfus. Domfus trying to burst through. Checked off the puck, and Sakic clears. 53 seconds left in Rusinski's minor. Both teams make changes. Eric Desjardins ahead to Domfus. At the line with Keane. LeBeau also up front. Daniel now at the point. Mike Keane. Down low, Domfus. Keane, the return pass, lost it. Here's Lapointe. Nordiques had 21 shorthanded goals this year to lead the NHL. Lapointe behind the net. 47 watched by 47. LeBeau. Lapointe wants a whistle, and they're going to get the face-off. It won't be in the Canadian zone. It'll come outside the line.
Since a minute and a half left or thereabouts in regulation time through till now in overtime, they played 7:37. Been a series of downers for Jacques Demers and the Canadiens. The 2 late goals by Quebec sending it into overtime, and that sequence there on the power play. Hextall beaten cleanly on the shot by Kevin Haller. It hits the post, goes out behind the goaltender, and Brian Bellows, of all people, off to the side of the net, and it gets away from him. Now here's the shot coming in from Haller with Dion there, and it's off the post, back in behind Hextall. There's the stick of Bellows. How about the bounce? Follow the bouncing puck. And it took a Nordiques bounce right there. Bingo, bingo.
Well, you can see Brian Bellows' reaction. Shock as it bounced over his stick. 7 seconds to go in the man advantage. Rusinski getting ready to return. Mike Ricci against the boards. He of the 10 game-winning goals this year, and Rusinski's returned in a big ovation for this Nordique penalty-killing unit.
Oh, everything's going the way of Quebec. The crowd is back with them now, and even a penalty-killing stint like that, of course, draws a standing O here, as well it should, in overtime. They've got it in their grasp, and you have to wonder if that last sequence at the net with the post and the Bellows miss, or the puck missed him, really. It might be a last gasp for the Canadiens here right now.
You know, the Canadiens got a message from Jacques Demers before the playoffs about controlling their emotions. Don't get too high or too low. And it really comes into play in a game like this. .12:01 to go. First overtime period. Tied at 2. Denis Savard on the ice. Benoit Brunet and Guy Carbonneau in an offside at the Nordiques line.
Denis Savard is on the brink of some kind of a statistical note for playoff hockey. He has 147 points. His next point will tie him with Brian Propp at 148. And they will be tied as the players who have scored the most points in a career in the playoffs and have never played on a Stanley Cup winning team. That's really digging on that one.
124th playoff game for Denis Savard.
I think get it tonight.
Here's Owen Nolan with Sakic and Huff hitting the line, and Savard makes the defensive play. At even strength right now as Savard takes it. You get the impression the Canadiens are killing a penalty and the Nordiques are acting like they're on a power play. Just the way they're setting up. They're going to the offense, and it looks like the Canadiens are trying to stop them. Huff in the corner. Centers it. Sakic shot wide. Huff again after it. Mike Huff, the veteran, gets it free. Sakic was looking for Nolan in front, broken up by J.J. Daniel.
Tell you, Nolan was in front, all alone.
Here's Brunet bursting in. Benoit Brunet. Hextall again. On a clear-cut break for Benoit Brunet.
I think we'll see on the replay that Brunet was in a little too deep and a little too wide. I don't think he had a clear setup at the net. He cut in from a sharp angle on the left wing right here. And he might even go too far to put the puck in right there. He would have had to get it right back at another sharp angle underneath Hextall. But give him credit for a shot and give Hextall credit for another big game saver. Well, that hit the side of the net. That's what happened there. That was the angle. Thought he had gone a little too far. Take a look at this. Hextall doesn't make the first contact with the puck. The net does. And he covers up on the rebound. There should not, I didn't notice if they clicked the shot for Montreal, but that shouldn't be a shot on goal.
Hextall played it perfectly, though, and Brunet foiled in overtime. 10:57 left in the first period of sudden death. Canadiens win the draw. Brisebois shot through traffic. He'll get another chance. Behind the net, there's Domfus. Gusarov watching him. Domfus feeds Brisebois. Shot blocked by Claude Lapointe. Flips it. Bad clearing there, but the Nordiques get another chance. Can't clear again. Sloppy play by Quebec. Finally, it's out. And here's Sundin. Great speed. In. Hauled down. Waugh hangs on. No call. And oh, this place is going to explode.
Paul Stewart doesn't call a penalty on Eric Desjardins. As we say in television, you be the judge. He doesn't get the shot away. That's almost penalty shot territory if you prevent the skater from getting a shot on goal. There's Desjardins with the stick in the midsection of Sundin. Down he goes. The shot isn't taken. The penalty isn't called. A penalty isn't called. And I watched Pierre Pagé. He was very calm. He didn't lose. I think he's just trying to keep things going the way they're going on the bench for Quebec. He'll take this overtime the way it's gone, with the exception, of course, of the hit post and the Brunet chance for Montreal. Well, it's turning into a long first day of the playoffs around the NHL. The Blues upset the Hawks in Chicago. The Kings over the Flames in Calgary. The Penguins, a home ice win. Haven't been many of those. Washington was a home ice winner. And the Sabres, that's the big upset surprise to me. They beat Boston in overtime.
Nordiques win the faceoff. There's the shot just off the mark. Don't forget, Toronto-Detroit tomorrow for viewers Ontario East. And Vancouver and Winnipeg at the Pacific Coliseum. Viewers Manitoba West. Nolan centers in front. DiPietro there at the side of the net to intercept it. Dion at center ice. Looking for help, but Mike Huff was there for the Nordiques. He lost it. And here's Gilbert Dion going wide. Duchesne watching him. Shot on. Kicked out by Hextall. Now the Nordiques looking a little disorganized in their own zone. Sakic finally gets control. Owen Nolan. Left wing Duchesne. Holds onto it. Centers. Deflected wide by Nolan.
Good hockey in the overtime, Chris. Lots of chances. Here's another one, maybe.
Here come the Canadiens. 4 skaters down the ice against 2. Kevin Haller shot right on. Sakic off the boards, and they do get it out. And Rasinski heads to the bench for Quebec. Here's a lead pass. Kirk Muller and Adam Foote with the defensive play.
Offside.
Offside was the call, but not many whistles are being heard in the Colisée right now.
Had 8 shots in overtime, 5 for Montreal, 3 for the Nordiques. And there have been some pretty good chances along the way. Here's the pass from the Canadiens blue line, and Muller's ruled in offside. Call was made immediately at the blue line by the linesman. Look out. Boy, the business of the nets being knocked off so easily has been a great boon to hockey players. And here's a Ron Hextall look at it. He gets out of the way. He's been in the way a lot tonight, as Chris mentioned early in the game, but particular.
37 shots directed at Hextall tonight. 32 at Patrick Roy. And it's tied at 2. 9:15 to go in the first overtime period. Scott Pearson back on the ice, and Pearson again hasn't seen many shifts tonight. He's out there now, maybe a chance. Shot, Young the shot, rebound. Pearson just missed there. Great save, Patrick Roy. Curtis Lasician moving in, centers it. That went off the skate of Brisebois out the other way. Ricci forechecking for Quebec. Scott Young turns with it. Young tried to get it. Here's Foote. His shot knocked down by Muller. Pearson to Ricci behind the goal. Young there, and Muller with a great defensive play. Back come the Canadiens. Muller feeds it ahead. John Leclair behind the goal. Sakic around the boards. And there's Kamensky. Off the boards to Sundin. Mats Sundin. Another burst through the goal crease. Lost control. Back to the point. Kept in Wallana. Kamensky down low. Watched by Haller and taken out of the play. Carbonneau ahead to Savard. Stopped up at the blue line by Gusarov. Now Desjardins flips it ahead. Brunet. And it's by him. Hextall out. Sundin at center. Lost control. Sundin reaching for it again. Kick free by Kamensky. Haller with it. And he lost it to the point. High backhand into the Canadian zone. Sundin watching Desjardins. And Haller. He flips it out to center. Duchesne flips it back in. Nordiques make a change now. Out comes Sakic with Nolan. Desjardins for the Canadiens. Cleared it in, and that deflected high, and plays whistled down.
That hit the light standard that supports the red light and the green light in behind the Quebec goal. It was wobbly. I wondered why they blew the play down if it had hit the glass, but it didn't. It was over the glass, and they're testing the light, I guess, to make sure it still works. That's a strange one. Never saw that before. I tell you, we talked about a lot of the inexperienced players out here at playoff. They're getting a real baptism in this one. Canadians yelled that that play might have been offside.
Boy, Scott Pearson almost got a chance to be the hero. And he's seen only a handful of shifts in this game. We've played 12 minutes and 45 seconds of overtime. Keane at the line, LeBeau. Dumps it into the corner. Joe Sakic, watched by Dom Foose. Nolan and Desjardins for Daniel. Now Nolan up with it. Kept in by LeBeau. Dom Foose was in behind and they couldn't get him the puck. Now Nolan for Quebec. Sakic trailing on the play. Huff goes to the net. Can't take the pass. Stéphane LeBeau. Vincent Dom Foose works against Duchesne. Centers it. Mike Keane gives chase. Sakic off the boards. It does come outside the line. Desjardins hit Duchesne with that clearing attempt. And it flips up through the Canadiens bench out of play.
I think Stéphane LeBeau would like to have that pass back to try again. He was just a bit too soft as he tried to get it into Vincent Dom Foose. There's Michel Bergeron. Told me the other night after the game in Buffalo that the series was opening in my Colisée. And they had their happiest moments and their glory years. Oh, come on, Michel, it's not that bad. This is overtime. He didn't yawn when he was coaching, I'll tell you that.
He's the only guy in the building yawning right now.
Now, a talk show host in Montreal does the color commentary on weekday Canadiens French language telecast as well.
Do you think there's enough airtime on Quebec City radio to talk about this game between now and Game 2 on Tuesday night?
Talk about hockey in July, Chris. They never have that problem.
Wallana drills it in just off the mark. Sundin taking Brunet to the boards, and they'll get a face-off in the Montreal zone.
Well, Mats Sundin has turned it up a notch in the overtime. He's had some terrific rushes, either with or without the puck. And it's a case of those legs that can just keep the other team off balance, but he is just something to watch. He's an absolutely beautiful skater when he gets in open ice.
He came the closest to making a controversial statement before this series. He said, with all our offense, how can the Canadiens check us all? And that raised the eyebrows of some veteran pundits who felt that the Nordiques' inexperience would be showing, and that might be fodder for the Canadiens. But Sundin's done a lot of talking on the ice tonight as well. Here's John Leclair. Brian Bellows. And Leclair's backhand goes over the glass, and when you think, Dick, about the chances Leclair and Bellows had early in this game,
Well, there's Jacques Demers today, 1993, coaching the Montreal Canadiens. Now, when the Quebec Nordiques first came into the NHL out of the WHA, who was their head coach? Jacques Demers. And there he is, as they joined the NHL with the Whalers, the Oilers, and the Winnipeg Jets. Look at the hat he's got on. And after 1 year here, he went down and coached the American League for a couple of years and went back up with the St. Louis Blues and then Detroit. Was a radio man for a couple of seasons and now coaching.
7th playoff year in the NHL, 36 wins, 35 losses.
Twice to the semifinals. Detroit against Edmonton.
6 minutes to go, or less in this first overtime period. Kirk Muller for the Canadiens with John Leclair and Brian Bellows. Adam Foote can't get it out, but follows up, and they do now flip it out to center. Bellows intercepting the pass, and Muller clears it back in. Ricci, Rucinski, and Young, the line for the Nordiques. And here comes Mike Ricci. Nice move against Haller as Ricci goes wide, centers, Young right on, and a great save. Patrick Waugh this time came out to challenge Scott Young. Caught way behind the play. Ricci and Haller are fencing, and now Ricci gets out of the zone. And there's an offside at the other line.
Boy, Scott Young might be thinking I had the game on the end of my stick, and Patrick Roy came up big to keep this going with 5:18 remaining here in this first overtime period. 5:18 or less. But that's the best save that Patrick Roy has made in the overtime. Young on the left side, and he just cranked one. But Roy got over quickly. Good lateral movement, and he had the angle covered. And Young fired it into his pads. Here's the Ricci play against Haller. Back comes the puck. Here's Young. Nobody covering him. One times it. Quickness by Patrick Roy to get across and block the shot. Scott Young last season spent his time between the U.S. Olympic team and Italy. Quite a switch for him this year.
There's a chance for Dion. The shot chopping at it, Brunet. And now the Nordiques get it back out to center ice. Steve Finn flips it in. Daniel chopped at it. It'll be kept in by Quebec. Here's a bouncing shot off Brisebois to the corner. Sakic behind the goal. Nolan forechecking as well. It goes past Finn. Down the ice, Duchesne scampers back to get it. Dion at center to Brisebois. He crosses the red line and will drive it right in on Hextall. 4:40 left in this first overtime period. 2-2 at the Colisée in game 1 of the Battle of Quebec. Owen Nolan with Huff and Sakic. Mike Huff flips it at Patrick Roy, and with Owen Nolan cruising, he wisely hangs on.
The way that these teams played through the first 2 periods, it was going to be the quickest game of the first day of the playoffs. Now it's turned into the longest as we look at Owen Nolan, #1 overall in 1990. Out of the Cornwall Juniors, 36 goals this year. But injured near the end of the season. You'll see his black eyes. They were a lot darker than that a few days ago. Collision with the boards here in a late season game. Came out obviously second best.
Boy, he's intense. He comes out of that dressing room about 5 minutes before the next period's about to start and gets ready in the hallway. You saw that shot in our intermission before overtime, and he was pacing for a good 5 minutes outside the dressing room. Right outside the line, Craig Wolanin. There's Kamensky. And Eric Desjardins takes over for the Canadiens. Keane, Damphousse, and Lebeau back out for Montreal. Sundin, Lapointe, and Kamensky for the Nordiques. Lapointe has played a real hard-nosed hockey game for the Nordiques, and he's the smallest of the Quebec forwards. He's had a gritty night, as has DiPietro, a small center iceman for the Canadiens. Here's Lebeau racing down ice, puts on the brakes. Passes for Damphousse, broken up. Kamensky lost his stick and kicked it ahead. Lebeau back in. Watched by Gusarov. Keane in the corner against Sundin. Now Lapointe flipping it into the Canadian bench. Another stoppage. 3:26 left.
That stick on the ice helped the Canadiens. Nordiques wheeling out of their own zone, headmanned the puck, It hit the stick that was on the ice. There's another situation here with Stéphane Lebeau with a soft pass to Vincent Damphousse, who could have had a good crack at Hextall, perhaps. Pass didn't get to him. It's overtime here at the Colisée. 3:26 remaining or less in the first overtime period. Oh, there's a lot of guys here who are playing in their first Stanley Cup game, their first Stanley Cup overtime game. Brzezinski and Sakic getting their first Stanley Cup playoff goals. A lot of firsts for the Nordiques tonight. They'd like to make it one more, of course, in their first Stanley Cup win. But the experience of Ron Hextall has been a big, big factor in this hockey game.
Dick, you get the impression, though, the Canadiens have regained a little bit of confidence after a shaky start in this overtime. Got Savard, Carbonneau and Brunet out there now. Ricci with a nice pass to Scott Young. He's had a good chance in overtime. 4 goals against Montreal in the regular season. Young scores! Scott Young in overtime has won for the Nordiques.
But Scott Young, who had a much better looking scoring chance in overtime, scores on a play when he's allowed to wheel around behind the Canadiens net, and he just tucks the wraparound, as we call it, past Patrick Roy on the short side. Young fights off a check there, still has the puck. Roy slides across, and somehow the puck gets in over the line. Young, not even at close range. Sometimes in the wraparound, they jam it right up against the post. But here he is. Look at the angle as he keeps his balance and slices it in off the goaltender's stick under Patrick Roy's arm into the net. Chris, it's not so much, I don't think, in the overall look at the series that Quebec has won it. It's how they won it here tonight.
Scott Young with the winning goal, star number 1. The Molson 3 stars. Patrick Roy is star number 2, and Ron Hextall brilliant for the Nordiques, star number 3. 16:49, time of Young's goal from Ricci and Duchesne. Here's Ron McLean.
The 9 seconds.
Thank you, Scott. There's one of the men on the spot right now, and certainly the team on the spot as we get set for sudden death in Game 3, and the Canadiens trailing this series 2-0 in 7 previous playoff overtimes between Montreal and Quebec. The Nordiques have won 6.
And another Scot was the hero in Game 1, Scott Young. Anybody can be a hero. And interesting, if you run down the National Hockey League guide, the total list of overtime goal scorers in playoff competition, there are some interesting names. Their moment in the sun, if you will. But the pressure, there's Scott Pearson talking about the Nordiques having fun and relaxed. I can understand that. There's no problem in that. The Canadiens want to take some of that fun away from them. I mean, if they're having fun now, they'll be hilarious if they win this game.
Sundin, Huff, and Kamensky for Quebec. It's Muller for the Canadiens diving after it in the Quebec zone with John Leclair and Brian Bellows. Adam Foote tried to pick up the puck. Kept in by Desjardins, swept aside by Hextall. And now Sundin with some open ice will skate to center. 4 Nordiques at center ice. Kamensky misses the pass on left wing. Valerie Kamensky just dumping it in, and Brisebois for the Canadiens. Bellows. The guy that scores here will be a hero all summer, and the guy who makes a mistake could be a goat for just as long or longer. Bellows. Owen pinching in. Leclair behind the goal, centers it. Hextall down. Muller takes the shot. Leclair pulled down, and play continues. Now the forum erupts as Nordiques come back. Sundin and Kamensky. That failed to click at the end of a shift, and the Canadiens start back out with Domfus. Montreal with the first good chance on goal. Domfus after it, poke checked, and he heads to the bench. That almost hit Bellows, an extra man on the ice, as he was headed to the bench on a late line change. Offside is the call. We've got an update, and here's Scott.
Chris, we may have overtime all over the National Hockey League tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Islanders have fought back to tie the Washington Capitals. Steve Thomas does yeoman service. He sets up Pierre Turgeon, number 77. His third goal of the playoffs, less than a minute left. It's 3-3, the Islanders and Caps.
Looks like Pierre Turgeon's getting rid of that playoff jinx that haunted him when he was in Buffalo. Didn't play in the playoffs last year. Islanders didn't make it. He's having a fine series so far. So it's the Canadiens under the gun, no question about it, on home ice in overtime.
Canadiens getting the first chance, and the fans thought that John Leclair had been hauled down in front of the Nordiques net and that there should have been a penalty. There was one penalty in the overtime in game one. Ramage double team, but gets it down the ice, and icing's the call as Ramage had not crossed the red line. A face-off deep in the Canadian zone.
Well, the point was the man there is, again, as he has been so often for Quebec, defensively in the neutral zone, and pretty well caused the icing. So we got an important face-off, and aren't they all in overtime? The Canadiens jumped right on the Nordiques, though, Chris, in the first minute. We mentioned how they didn't do that in the first minute of the third period after having a fine second period, but they had that close call. Every one of these face-offs now in somebody's end of the rink is a big one in overtime.
Paget hoping to drop the winning goal. There's a tricky shot from the side of the rink, and Patrick Roy hangs on. Rasinski with the wrist shot.
Winning the face-off. Sakic's done very well in that regard tonight. So Demers makes a change. And Belanger, basically a raw rookie. His first Stanley Cup game.
Against Sakic, and Belanger does the job. Desjardins behind the goal. Domfus, Belanger, and Keane, Ramage. Belanger goes to the bench, and LeBeau is now out. Rasinski, Sakic, and Kovalenko on right wing. Andrei Kovalenko trying to cut in against Desjardins, and he just rolled it wide. Crashing into Waugh, and the net goes ajar. And they say Kovalenko can cut in off the wing as good as anybody on their team.
He's had moments of terrific speed for Quebec against Montreal. It's one of the first times in tonight's game, maybe the first the net's been knocked askew. And here's the reason why. Kovalenko covered a little too closely by Desjardins, and the puck went wide, and the net went off the mark. So he is back in the lineup tonight, his first playoff game, as you've mentioned, and he does add that dimension. You just saw it. They've got so many quick forwards.
Nordiques brass feels he has a chance to be a star as well. He led the scoring at the World Junior Championship in Finland a few years back, but was overshadowed by a teammate by the name of Bure. Minute 54 gone in the overtime, and an anxious moment at either end so far. Sundin and Mullard, and Mullard kicks it free. Up to Bellows. He sends it in. John Leclair, first man after it. Behind the net, Bellows trying to sweep in front. Here's Leclair, traffic jam in front. They shoot and went through the goal crease behind Hextall and out the other way. Bad break there for the Canadiens. They got it behind Hextall, but not in. At the line, they get crossed up. Gusara out to center, breeze ball right back in. Benoit Brunet, Muller to the net, and it was broken up by Gusara. Back comes Quebec. Scott Young turns back. Now feeds ahead. Miss Lapointe with the pass, and breeze ball rolls it inside the line. Ricci, Lapointe, and Young. This was the line that produced the overtime winner game one. Gary Lehman didn't play game one. Flips it cross ice. Greg Wolanin there for Quebec. Gusarov. Breakaway pass behind Lapointe. This will be icing if Daniel gets to it first, and he does.
I wonder if Jacques Demers is starting to question, is it really in the cards for us in overtime? In game one, Kevin Haller hit the goalpost. The puck went behind Hextall and over the stick of Brian Bellows. And right here, as you mentioned, the puck, we'll take a look at it here. It's John Leclair through the crease, through the legs. Look at that, right across the line, it seems, and out the other side. And you can't get it any closer than that. And Ron Hextall and the Nordiques dodge a bullet early in this first overtime period. We see the puck here in this one. There's a traffic jam. Leclair swings it around, and well, maybe not right on the line. The other angle looked that way, but close enough.
Muller on the face-off against Sundin. Leclair through a maze of legs. Loose. Bellows. Oh, a big stop. Rebound. Still loose. And they can't get it past Ron Hextall.
And I say it again. Demers must be saying, is it in the cards for us to score in overtime? Because they have had the chances through the first 3 minutes and 13 seconds of this overtime period, and here's another wild one. And it's just a case of trying to follow the bouncing puck and the flopping goaltender. And Ron Hextall hangs in somehow in this sequence, and the Canadiens can't put it by him.
Brilliant save against Bellows, and then the pile up in pursuit of the rebound. Watch the glove by Hextall.
Well, the fans got to appreciate the effort the Canadiens are giving it here. And by that time, with the puck free at the top of your screen, the whistle had gone.
Bill McCreary just over to the Quebec bench as the Nordiques try a late change.
Well, let's look at what's happened around the eastern part of the NHL playoff mat. The Penguins win again. They're up 3-0 in overtime now at the Nassau Coliseum, 3-3. In overtime in Buffalo, 3-3. In overtime here in Montreal, 1-1.
Desjardins batting it out of midair, and it's called on the high stick.
Yeah, that's a strange stat that you mentioned, Chris. 7 times these teams in their playoff meetings have gone into overtime, and only once has Montreal won the game. Mats Sundin with a drifting long shot on Mario Gosselin in 1987. And the Canadiens won that one.
We saw Dale Hunter's overtime winner in our opening. Muller kicks the feet out from under Sundin. Bellows hit Gusarov as he tried to clear it in. Now Muller will carry in. Around Kamensky. In the corner, bodied by Huff. He kicks it loose. Bellows shooting wide. Had some room on the far side, and it goes all the way back into the Canadian zone. Desjardins off the boards out to center. Craig Wolanin ahead to Kamensky. Mike Huff checked by Dion. Down goes Dion. Wolanin backhands it into the Montreal zone. 4 minutes gone in the overtime period. Brisebois ahead. Bellows reached for it. Went by everybody. And Duchesne plays it around the boards for Gusarov. Denis Savard checked by Gusarov. Owen Nolan clearing it into the Montreal zone. J.J. Daigneault's back. Off the boards ahead to Denny, and it goes over his stick. Curtis Lasician feeds ahead. Owen Nolan, nice pass to Sakic, back to Nolan, who clears it in. Kovalenko's out on right wing. Kovalenko knocked it behind the goal, and it comes around to Savard. He flips to center ice. Duchesne whacks at it, and it goes back in. Pass Ramage, kept in by Nolan. Daigneault another try. Outlets on left wing to Dion and Savard. Denis Savard across the line. Back pass didn't go through. Gets another chance right in on goal. And Dion was providing the screen. Another shot that didn't look that harmless. Dangerous, but McCreary goes down. Fans react. Savard, LeBeau, shot wide. Desjardins moving up. Can't keep it in, and here's Kovalenko. His lead pass for Sundin just missed. Canadiens wheel out with Domfus. Danfus tripped up by Finn. LeBeau hit the side of the net, and now it's Chris Simon. Just rolling it at center ice. Brisebois there, banks it off the boards. Willett to Sundin. He'll turn back and wind up. Mats Sundin to the line. Can't break through. Cavallini tied up by Carbonneau. And Desjardins leads the Canadiens to center ice. Here's Desjardins to the line. Shot right on. Rebound. Carbonneau rolled it wide. Bouncing puck, and Carbonneau missed the target. Mike Ricci's back. Ricci for the Nordiques. We're in overtime at the Forum. Steve Finn at the point. His shot blocked. Keane whacks at it. Lapointe is after it. Cavallini being hooked. Lapointe looking for it behind the goal. Ricci has it. Steve Finn sneaking in from the point. Finn was alone in front for a moment, but the Canadiens get it out. 6 minutes, 40 seconds gone in sudden death overtime. Odeline clears it in for Montreal. Brunet is after it. Hit by Leclair. Mike Huff. Intercepted by Lehman. Hextall sweeps it around the boards. There's Young. In the middle for Sakic. That missed, and Rob Ramage, the veteran defenseman. Off the boards, Leclair clearing it into the Montreal zone. Eric Desjardins. Out to Lehman. Left wing Brunet with speed. Sharp angle, hit the post. LeBeau rolled it wide. Lehman can't get the shot away. 3 cracks at it. The Canadiens can't put it in. Benoit Brunet with a rocket off the outside of the post. Lehman turns. Brunet again with LeBeau. 2-on-1. In front. Off the boards. They score.
We're going to have an argument. The Nordiques are going to argue that the stick was over the shoulder. The referee pointed to the puck in the net, but hang on. Just hang on. McCreary is motioning to the benches. Wait a minute. Jack Demers, he's doing what he has to do. He's getting his team off the ice. But wait a minute, folks. This is going to be a close call. This one's going to the video replay judge. Now, you just knew this had to happen sometime in sudden death overtime. Stéphane LeBeau, where's the stick? Oh, yeah,
No
it's
doubt.
over the shoulder. No question.
No doubt about
it's over
it.
the shoulder. That goal's not going to count. That goal should not count. The point is, did it hit LeBeau's stick or did it hit the Quebec defenseman? Now, you can't tell from there. Did he really touch the puck, or was it Joe Sakic?
Or was it Ron Hextall?
Yeah. That's the only out that the Canadiens might have here, if we can see it clearly. But this thing isn't over yet. Now, does LeBeau touch the puck? Yeah, I think he does. Yeah.
They'll have to bring the Canadiens back. Only Denis Savard is on the ice. Well, that's our opinion. We'll wait for the official.
Well, the video replay judge is Carlton McDermott, and Wally Harris, who was the man on the phone, has ruled that the goal has been disallowed in sudden death overtime. But there's not much doubt about it. Take a look again. LeBeau, the puck deflects high. LeBeau's stick goes high. He did a good job to make contact with it, actually. But it's no goal.
Dick, that wasn't just over the shoulder. It was over his head.
Yeah. And we're going to have quite a delay here because the fans, in their exuberance, thinking that the home team had won in OT, littered the ice from one end of the Forum surface to the other. And we're going to have a delay here while the maintenance men...
We were trying to decide if the Canadiens had scored or not in overtime. Here in Buffalo, the Sabres win a faceoff. Pat LaFontaine, Dale Howardchuk stopped by John Blue. This is less than a minute in. A knuckleball, it's in the net. Dale Howardchuk scores 4-3 Buffalo. They have a 3-0 series lead over the Boston Bruins.
I tell you, that isn't just a surprise. That's a shock. if you judge from the way those teams finished the regular season. You know the old story, finish the regular season on a roll like Minnesota 2 years ago. It doesn't work in that one because the Sabres lost their last 7 and Boston won their last 10 or 12, whatever, almost. Now, here's Demers. This is after the goal went in, and he knows that there's going to be an argument, and he knows there's going to be a video replay check. And he's telling his guys, come on, let's go. Benoit Brunet was injured, you know, when all the celebration was going on by the Canadiens. He was down on the ice, and he got up very gingerly. So now this is live as the Canadiens are back on the bench. And then all this is finished, and the debris is scraped up. Play will resume with a face-off in the Nordique zone.
We're told that they have given the winning goal in Buffalo to Yuri Himalev. John Muckler often said Grant Fuhr could win you a series by himself, but he's not doing it just by himself, Dick. It's been a great effort by the Sabres.
But when they made the trade, the word was, well, they want to win at least one playoff series this year. They haven't done it since 1982 when they beat Montreal in 3 straight. There's another look at the high stick that LeBeau used to knock the puck in the net. The fellow who was the hero of that series, Bob Sauvé, in the best of 3, is here tonight. He works as a commentator on the Soirée de Hockey. And Scotty Bowman was coaching the Buffalo Sabres in that particular time. So, Jacques Demers and the Canadiens have to regroup. I don't know, Chris, what the aftermath is to something like this. Actually, the face-off will be outside the blue line. You know, who's the team that has to do the most regrouping? I would think it's the team that was deprived of what looked like the winning goal, but they're not. They know they can't argue the point. Now the Canadiens got to say, okay, it's been all Montreal in this overtime, as the shots would show, and that's a good indication of how the play has gone. They're the ones, I think, who now have to regroup much more so than Quebec does.
Be interesting to find out if Bill McCreary would have allowed that goal without video replay.
Oh, that's the question you ask all the time in those cases. And the referees are so emphatic at the time, and then it's changed for them by the fellas upstairs. But that time there was no question.
We are back underway. Steve Finn for the Nordiques. Canadiens have had all the chances so far. Here's Ricci in, centers it in front, and the Nordiques now go to the attack with a second win. Spin at the point. Wrist shot wide. Ricci reaching for it at the side of the net. Young coming out in front, takes the shot, kicked out, big stop. Patrick Roy down, and a high shot goes wide and will go all the way down the ice. That one just missed.
Scott Young on the verge of being a hero the second time in overtime in this series.
Dean hit by Lapointe, and Lapointe wins the puck. Here's Young again. Scott Young, shot right on. Patrick Roy has it in front of him.
It looks like that's what happened, Chris. The Nordiques get a big break, and not a big break. They got the decision in their way, as it should have been, and now they're the ones that seem to have a little more spring in the legs. The Canadiens had it through the first part of this overtime. Quite a hockey game here tonight. We hope you are enjoying it. Coast to coast on Hockey Night in Canada. And remember, tomorrow night, more playoff action from Toronto, Winnipeg, and Los Angeles. That shot from the sharp angle by Young, and Roy knocked down, reached for the high shot, but it missed the net.
That high shot just missed Bill McCreary, who was ducking on the play. 11:25 to go, first overtime period. At the point, foot missed by a couple of feet. Sakic to Kovalenko. Rusinski has it now, circles, shoots right on, rebound. Kicked out, back at the point, Leclair knocked down, and the Canadiens finally come out. Gilbert Dion, their first assault since the disallowed goal, shot right on. Brunet reaching for the rebound. Rusinski against Dion, who scoops it behind the goal. Brunet dodges a check from Leclair, back to the point. Daigneault shooting, just rolled off Hextall wide. Leclair, left wing feed for Rusinski. Brisebois there for the Canadiens. Up ahead it goes to Dion. Gilbert Dion pries it loose for Bellows. Bellows knocked down, penalty coming up against Quebec.
Curtis Leclair lays a two-hander on Brian Bellows, and so with 9 minutes and 26 seconds gone in this first overtime period. The Canadiens, for the second time in this series, will have a power play in overtime. In the first game, it was the only power play they had all night. Bellows went down, and he was grimacing, favoring his right hand or arm as he goes to the bench. Bingo! There's the crack that he takes from Leclair, who's now gone for 2. And Bellows is getting some attention from the Canadiens. Physical therapist Gaetan Lefebvre. Look at it here. Bellows makes the move toward the board. So now, Canadiens, who on balance have dominated this overtime period, get a chance to dominate in the manpower department. But they have to be careful, because the Nordiques can score shorthanded goals.
Brian Bellows in discomfort at the Canadiens bench. John Shipman, Gaetan Lefebvre watching him as the Canadiens go on the power play. As you see, 1 for 5. Damphou shooting. That hit the post. Hit the outside of the post through a maze of legs. Sakic sprawling. Arici can't. Here's Hextall. He has it in his pads and hangs on, and Muller knocks Wolanin down in front of the net.
Bellows still being looked at the Canadiens bench. Now he says, I'm okay. I saw him nod his head, and he's coming onto the ice. Take a look at that last one. Muller trying to create some havoc in front of Hextall. Almost succeeds in doing it. He and Wolanin hammering one another, former teammates with New Jersey. And the faceoff will be in the Quebec zone. All of that through the first 19 seconds of the Curtis Leclair 2-minute penalty for a slash.
Kirk Muller scored on the power play in the second period. That's the only shot that's beaten Ron Hextall. Officially. Kick free by Muller to Brisebois. Here's the shot. Just went wide. Rebound. Comes out to the blue line, and Lapointe sends it down. Brian Bellows back on the ice. 10 minutes into the sudden overtime period. Muller hit by Lapointe, slowed up. It's in his skates. Comes free for Damphou. Gusarov checks him. He is cool, they say. Sometimes they gotta check his pulse, because under pressure-packed situations, he'll act so nonchalant. Gusarov, number 5, out on defense with Adam Foote. Cleared in. Damphou. Nice move. Shooting right on. They score!
And Hextall's wild again. Hextall going after McCreary big time. Think that the puck was kicked in.
Jubilation at the Forum and throughout the Montreal area. The Canadiens are back in the series. And Ron Hextall's argument continues. This time it will fall upon deaf ears. Let's join Scott Russell.
Chris, tomorrow night, Molson Hockey Night in Canada. Detroit at Toronto to the east. The Wings lead that series by 2 games. And then Vancouver at Winnipeg to Manitoba and British Columbia. We get word now that this game is not over. There will be an argument, and there will be a video replay. Chris?
Muller was there. I'm not so... But is it his skate or Gusarov's skate? And was it kicked or was it a deflection? Now, what does McCreary do this time? And it's good.
It's a goal. Have you ever seen a finish like this? Oh, Patrick was a hero tonight. He outdueled Hextall tonight, although both were brilliant. Hextall's still heated up, and he better be careful. Ronnie better be careful. Here, Paget's over. But this is a brand new series on the goal.
We got all kinds of things happening here. A fan tried to jump on the ice, and the gendarmes at the Forum hauled him off. Now here's Hextall finally barging through the gate in high dudgeon. Paget's bad, but the Canadiens have won.
10:30, time of the goal. Kirk Muller's second of the game. Vincent Damphousse will get an assist, and the argument persists on the ice.
That was the 50th Montreal shot of the hockey game, and the 12th in overtime. And it's 2-1 final.
Wild night. Patrick Roy and the Canadiens are back in the Battle of Quebec. Let's join Scott.
At 4. At stake is game number 5 in this Adams Division semifinal. The series is tied at 2. Elsewhere tonight, Pittsburgh 5-3 over New Jersey. They win that Adams Division semifinal 4-1. Jeff Daniels, the hero tonight, with 2 goals for the Penguins. They are moving on against either the Islanders or the Capitals. The Capitals won 6-4 tonight and staved off elimination. That series stands at 3-2 for the New York Islanders. They're going back to Nassau County Coliseum. And once again, here at the Coliseum in Quebec, 4-4, the Montreal Canadiens and the Quebec Nordiques. And
People's choice as far as Canadiens leading candidate to score the game-winning goal. Coming into this game, he was the leading shooter in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he has 3 more shots on goal tonight as the Canadiens go through another one of their rituals prior to the start of any period. And this is all well choreographed. Each player has their role, and wishing Patrick Roy good luck.
Just to bring the record up to date, in Game 1, it was overtime. Scott Young scoring the winning goal for Quebec. Game 3 at the Montreal Forum went into overtime. Vincent Damphousse getting credit for the goal that gave the Canadiens the victory.
And a night like this might produce an overtime goal that again goes upstairs to the video judge.
You know, this is a game the Nordiques do not obviously want to go back into Montreal trailing 3-2. This is very, very important for them.
And the Canadiens must win 1 here at Le Coliseum to win the series.
They have to win 1 in a row.
And we're underway as Brisebois clears it in. Scott Young, Mike Ricci, Mike Huff for Quebec, Kirk Muller, Brian Bellows. And there's a backhand by John Leclair just going wide. And out comes Adam Foote to center, pushing it into the Canadian zone. Patrick Roy wraps it around the boards. There's Bellows with Muller. Muller out to center. Leclair cruising on the left wing. Behind the goal, Muller against Gusarov. And Muller is knocked down. Leclair up with it to Bellows. Brian Bellows, and the puck comes outside the line as he tried to feed the point. Huff knocks down the clearing from Daigneault. Mike Huff in. Scott Young! Oh, he blasted that one high.
All of the games Scott Young played against Montreal with the Hartford Whalers, I don't ever remember him shooting the puck that way. He may still be with the Hartford Whalers if he'd have shot the puck that way. And tonight he has ripped a couple that have just missed, and they are as hard as you could find anybody shooting the puck. And he has a quick release, and that's all the more important when you can drill them like that. John Leclair, who you mentioned in the brief chat we had, Chris, didn't miss by much with that close-in backhand right off the bat in the first rush of the overtime.
Did you notice when I get to pick a player, I pick 3 or 4. You got to cover as many bases as possible.
They're learning.
45 seconds in to the overtime period. Sakic, Kamensky, Kovalenko, Brunet, Belanger are out for the Canadiens, along with Dion. And this line has provided some heroics the last 2 games for Montreal. Desjardins shovels it ahead. Brunet sends it into the Quebec zone quickly. Canadiens make a change, so they're trying to line match a bit here in the overtime. Steve Finn back into his own zone. Damphousse is out with Keane and LeBeau. What a time this would be for LeBeau to score his first of the series. Duchesne ahead to Kovalenko with Kamensky. Kamensky shot that deflects into the crowd.
Don't know if in overtime these fellas are so uptight that maybe there's some individualistic play taking over here. We've seen some long shots on the part of both teams rather than carry the puck in. It's getting to Jacques Demers too here. This tension.
their team onto the winning goal. Belanger clears it in for Canadiens. Dion in first, but Duchesne there for Quebec, and he flips it out to center ice. Daniel off the boards. Dion reaching for it, but it's chopped away. Now Leclair, Rick wide. Sundin, Nolan, shot by Nolan. Rebound, Sundin, rolled it wide on the backhand. Quebec comes close, and now the Canadiens start back. Benoit Brunet checked by Leclair at center ice. Daniel fires it into the crowd, out of play, but Quebec with the first big scoring chance in overtime.
Now you wonder if history's going to repeat, as we showed you earlier on. 6 years ago tonight, these teams played an overtime game here, and Mats Sundin scored the winning goal for Montreal. Right here, a close-in chance on Patrick Roy, and it's the backhand by Sundin that fails to find the target. First close-in chance for Quebec. And when all this is over, will it be quick or will it drag on for a while? We'll have our Molson 3-star selection for you. And number 13 for the Quebec Nordiques will receive more than a slight consideration, I'm sure.
Another puck into the Canadiens bench. He'll be a man to watch in overtime. Vince Damphousse with a goal and an assist tonight. And once again, one of the best Canadians, and he did get credit for the overtime goal in Game 3. Went in off the skate of Gusara. Sakic, Kamensky against Owen, snaps the shot high. Against the back of the net, Desjardins fires it around, and Kerry Huffman can't keep it in. At center, now clearing it back. Desjardins tries the near boards, pinching in his Finn. Huffman comes across and again clears it into the Canadian zone. Right wing feed for Keane. Stefan Lebeau, watched by Finn. Kovalenko back into his own zone, off the boards, out to center. On the line, had to get to that puck quickly with two Nordiques, Sakic and Kamensky breaking. Damphousse on the right side, Owen digging deep into the zone against Finn. Keane after the loose puck behind the goal. Owen is there. Now Keane helping out. Owen back to his point position. And Mike Hutt for the Nordiques comes up with it. And dumps it out to center. Here's a lead pass for Muller. Left wing, Damphousse. That's broken up. Scott Young turns back. And Young dumped by Keane at center ice. Up. On the red line. Right wing feed for Young. Leclair on him. And again, Young goes sprawling. J.J. Daniel ahead. Two-line offside against Montreal.
I sense there's more tension in this building tonight, Chris, than there was in Game 1, and of course, that's understandable. In the overtime, the Nordiques have had one shot. The Canadiens are still looking for their first. The only close-in chance Montreal has had, Leclair missed on a backhand in the first 30 seconds. And Mike Keane decides to use the body, even in overtime. And Young goes up and down, while the body to the lower part of the body, like the leg. But play went right on.
Those don't get noticed quite as much in overtime unless you're on the receiving end of them. Puck bounces past Gusara. Brian Bellows can't get control of it. Hextall knocked down by his backpedaling defenseman Adam Foote. Loose puck against the boards, and again, Huff vacuums it up. Feeds on right wing to Scott Young. 4 goals in the series. Tries to center and strange hop. Right on Patrick Roy, cleared by the Canadiens. Brian Bellows digs back. Here comes Bellows. Big shot. That deflects way up into the end of the crowd.
Brian Bellows had a break down the right side, and when he got to the point, it looked like he had to make a decision. Do I deke or do I shoot? And he couldn't quite make up his mind, and he was stopped about 10 or 15 feet inside the Quebec line. Maybe the Canadiens should take a look at that replay we had of Naslin's goal back 6 years ago tonight, where he shot one from the blue line. But Bellows has been a very fine performer for Montreal right from the start of the playoffs. He hasn't had a bad game.
Brian doesn't pick his spots either. 20 goals at home this year, 20 on the road. And this young line of Belanger, Brunet, and Dion back out. Haven't seen much of Denis Savard down the stretch. Wonder if Jacques Demers might save him and send out some fresh legs later in this overtime period. Owen Nolan up the board, Sundin cross ice. Here's Perry Huffman, long shot, sails high. Sundin bumped along the boards, comes free. Rucinski, Huffman, shot right on. Handled easily by Patrick Roy. Outside the line, dumped back in offside off Sundin.
Two Canadians who are not seeing much action are the two veterans, Denis Savard and Rob Ramage. Although Ramage, there could be a reason for that if you have just joined us. Ramage was hit very squarely in the face by a puck while he was sitting on the bench. And he hasn't seen all that much action. Hit him on the nose. He did not require stitches. And so strangely enough, it looked like he would. We had the glass break in the first period, and the goal judge in the area to our right suffered a cut hand. He did not return, but he is okay. When you're like that, when you're a player who's not getting ice time, you don't rock and roll like the fans are here, but you sit there and you try to be as ready as you can. Because you never know when the coach, as you say, Chris, might get the inspiration that here's a chance for the fresh legs or the veterans' experience or whatever. Put them on.
Curtis Leclair over to Duchesne. Chopped down into the Quebec zone. Canadiens make a change. Belanger went to the bench after the face-off. Here's LeBeau intercepting a pass. This pass from Dom Foose broken up by Kamensky. LeBeau knocked down. On the line of Desjardins. Pass intercepted by Kovalenko. He's tough to move off the puck. Kovalenko against Keane, and the Canadiens are able to clear. Shane will touch it, and icing the call against Montreal.
Now, you have to agree with Joe Sakic when he told Scott in the first intermission about the experience factor and the lack of, say, not really being important at this point. Boy, these fellows were thrown into a playoff situation, for many of them, like Joe Sakic, for the first time. But with 3 overtimes and 5 games, I mean, this is all the experience that Pierre Pagé could hope that they could get. Under the conditions of a Canadiens Nordiques playoff round, I mean, it's really been something. They don't learn from all of this down the road why there's something missing, and I'm sure they will. The Canadiens have some kids, Brunet and Dion, that have not gone through this sort of thing at all in their careers.
Nordiques 6-2 in overtime against the Canadiens. Sundin, Rucinski, Nolan, Leclair, and Duchesne as the crowd makes noise again. Nordiques win the draw. Sundin in the corner against Belanger. Sundin up with it. Leaves it for Nolan. Belanger on him. Rucinski. Nolan. Sundin's in front. They can't get it to him. Now Sundin has it against the boards. Backhands it into the corner. Belanger spinning away from Nolan. Flipping it up to center and down the ice. And the fans react to that. We've played over 6 minutes in this overtime. Here's Dom Foose with it to Keane, and it bounced over his stick. That's Sundin ahead for Nolan. Nolan bumps into Dom Foose. Back into the Quebec zone it goes. Canadiens make a change. Quebec change their front line as well. Curtis Leclair at center. Flipping it down into the Montreal zone. Young giving chase against Desjardins. Puck gets to Leclair. Ricci on him. They keep it at the line, and now it comes out to center. Muller. Rink wide. Bellows can't get loose. Usara. Mike Huff. Rink wide. Right wing. Scott Young. Toe save Patrick Roy. Young behind the goal again. Desjardins watching him. It's in front. Ricci banks away at it. Cleared by Owen Nolan. Patrick makes another big stop. 2 more good chances, and the Canadiens clear.
Nordiques all over the Canadiens. They've had 4 shots. The best one was the one by Young. Canadiens still without a shot here in overtime.
And center ice. Brisebois standing up on the red line. Brunet working in. Easy shot in on Hextall, but Dion was cruising. Here's a loose puck. The ball. Brunet. Shot deflects to the far boards. Daigneault fires. That's broken up. The point ahead. Kamensky against Brisebois. Kamensky in. Shoots Patrick Roy again. The point against the boards. Spins away from Brunet. Centers. Oh, toe stop off Sakic. Patrick Roy is sharp right now. And we've got a fight. Kamensky at least looked like he was throwing punches as he got off the deck with Patrice Brisebois.
That's the third or fourth time in this series, and maybe even just tonight, where we've had a player lying on another player. And they were just in the corner, all by themselves. And this is how it all began. I don't think we're going to... Oh, yes, we are going to have penalties, as they are both going to the box. So they were there, and they stayed there, and they stayed there, and they battled. And they're both gone to the box. So this sets up a situation, 4 skaters aside here. Some open ice. Now Patrick Roy has come up very large for the Canadiens here through the first 7 minutes and 43 seconds of overtime, a period that has been pretty well dominated by the Quebec Nordiques. Which one of his saves? Oh, this will be the Sakic chance right here. And Roy turns it aside. The same right leg that he used to stop a terrific shot from the other side, the right wing, that Scott Young fired at him a couple of minutes ago. Both of those shots labeled. And the Canadiens goaltender came up with the save. So he's been the one tested, the only goaltender in this overtime tested.
We played 7 minutes, 43 seconds of the overtime, and that's a long time for Hextall at the other end. Not really to be busy. Scott Young, what a force he's been in this series. Sundin, Rasinski, and from the face-off, it's dropped to Rasinski. 4-on-4 now. Will this produce the game winner? Mats Sundin shot. Toe save with the left foot by Patrick Roy. Damphousse and Muller are the front men for the Canadiens. Sundin knocked Desjardins off the puck. Kusarov left point, flipping it back in. Loose for Desjardins, and he picks it up and starts Montreal out of the zone. Ahead to Damphousse with Muller. Vincent Damphousse cross to Muller. Shot scores! Kirk Muller!
One shot, one goal for the Montreal Canadiens in overtime. As Kirk Muller scores on a long shot on Ron Hextall. You talk about history repeating. We showed you 6 years ago a long shot goal wins for Montreal in this building. And here it is. Vinny Damphousse swings over in the neutral zone. Takes the defenseman with him and then gets the puck to Muller, who is ignored on the right side. He tees it up, and it gets through Hextall into the net. And the Canadiens come from behind and win in overtime, Chris.
Kirk Muller, the man who was involved in the 2 replay situations earlier in the game. Canadiens celebrate. Muller from Damphousse at 8:17 of overtime.
Canadiens in Game 5 of this Adams Division semifinal. Mats Sundin with 2 goals for the Quebec Nordiques. Tonight, number 13 finally gets on track. The second star, Gilbert Dion, with a goal for the Canadiens, the goal that sent this one to overtime. And the third star, of course, Kirk Muller, also of the Montreal Canadiens, the overtime winner for Kirk.